Welcome to episode 8 of Mic'd Up Exploring the Hidden Game. On tonight's show, I'm delighted to have Nick Drane, head coach of Ipswich basketball, to talk through the National Cup final for his under-18 side. Hi, Nick. How are you?
I'm very well, Mike. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thank you for coming on. Just a bit of background on Nick. So he's the head coach and academy director for Ipswich. He's had 19 years full-time in basketball. Former England national team assistant coach and has won multiple national championships for junior men's, junior women's and senior women's sides. So Nick, before we begin, would it be possible just to describe your emotions going into this game? What was the build up to this game like?
It's a good story. I think there's probably three versions of it. There's the Ipswich version, the Reading version, and then somewhere in the middle, probably the reality of it is about 6 weeks before this cup final, both teams met in the WEABL, the Women's Elite Academy Basketball League. And going into that game, both teams were undefeated. And it was, very, very much billed as a top of the table clash, two of the best teams in the country. And we were going into this game without Esther Little, who had missed the first half of the season with a broken foot, and Becky Harwood-Bellis wasn't playing because she had a concussion. So I was going into this WEABL game with I was a bit pessimistic about how well we would perform, and was very much looking at it as, it's a regular season game. We've got to get what we can out of this. They were smashing us, frankly. But early in the second quarter, Susanna, who would go on to win MVP of this cup final, Susanna dislocated her shoulder. And so we had to play 28 minutes of this WEABL game with 5 players. Of those 5, one was a lower school girl and one was a girl that had stopped playing basketball competitively and was kind of making up the numbers on the bench for us. So they went on to beat us by about 30. And so with no sort of ill feeling or no animosity, there was very much in our girls' mind, we're at full strength for this game. So in addition to it being a national final, it was a bit of chance for some redemption for our girls. So this was the first game we had played all season with our full lineup, with all of our players available. We'd entered the Under-18s Cup just for some extra games for our girls in their own age group, because most of them play for our Division 1 women. And we obviously just kept winning, and suddenly found ourselves in this final. So yeah, we were really excited. We knew that we were playing a really, really good team, who at that point hadn't lost a game all season. So we felt like we played the underdog card quite heavily in the build up to it.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you for that overview. That great insight into the background leading into this game. Okay, all right, we'll get started. So, game's about to begin. What was your game plan heading into this?
In terms of our prep, and in terms of kind of Reading are a really, really good basketball team. They play a very, very attractive brand of basketball. Their player movement, their pace of play is very dynamic. I think that a couple of their players sort of play at a tempo that our British kids need to look at and sort of see that's how we need to play in terms of pace of play, ball movement, off ball movement, that kind of stuff. So we were very conscious that we needed to try and force this team to get out of their comfort zone. And the area that we identified was that we probably had an advantage in terms of size and athleticism, but they probably had an advantage in terms of guard play, particularly Parodi, the point guard, the really small girl, and number 11, Carmen, who was, I think, just a wonderful player. And so our game plan was very much to try and make those two do things that they're not comfortable with. The big girl has always caused us problems whenever we've played because she's just so big and strong. Our girls are big and athletic, not necessarily big and strong. So it was very much to try and, disrupt their guards, force their guards to shoot. So certainly Parodi, number 4, I believe, to shoot the ball from distance because she wants to penetrate constantly. And anything that Carmen was doing, we wanted to make her do. Anything was contested, but we wanted to. I mean, if you look at this, I think Ella Pearson is pretty much glued to her for 40 minutes in this game, and just making things uncomfortable for her. So very much it was a case of that we had to win the battle of the boards, and we had to win the game physically, but we had to keep their two guards really under control, and I think we did a pretty good job of that.
For sure. Nick identified a player there, Pearson. That's number 8 for those of you who don't know which player that is. Nick, what did you feel Reading had planned against you? What did you feel they wanted to exploit in your game?
I think that they look at our size and probably felt that, you know, as athletic as our big girls are, you know, if you're 6'1", 6'2", chasing around someone who's 5'7", 5'8" is a tough ask. So I think that they wanted to probably make our bigs play away from the basket a little bit. Mm-hmm. They definitely had some plans for Esther in terms of how they would double her in the post. You know, that's to be expected. Esther's, you know, kind of the one of the big name players in junior women's basketball, and she's a big left-handed athletic kid. Every time she comes down the floor in her left hand, I think everyone loads up and is sort of taking it in turns and trying to take a charge off her. So I think that they probably thought that if we can get, you know, you see it there, she's gone to the basket with her left hand. Someone's put their body on the line. I think that they were trying to get us in foul trouble. I think that they were trying to make it a guard, you know, orientated game rather than a big orientated game wherever possible. I think, you know, both teams were playing this game with a very short rotation. Mm-hmm. So I think both teams kind of had an eye on the fact that if we can draw some early contact and see what the referees are calling, we might be able to get some foul trouble and make the other team go to their bench.
Great. On this baseline out of bounds, there's a bit of a breakdown. Can you remember what exactly went wrong?
I can't. Do you know what, Mike? When you sent through your notes, I was like, I pulling my hair out. You know, the reality is we probably didn't put enough emphasis on that in prep in terms of, you know, sideline, baseline, out of bounds. We probably put so much emphasis on personnel and how we were defending individuals that we didn't necessarily put enough emphasis on that. I also think that there can be a tendency when you're coaching, particularly juniors, that if you give a player or players a specific task defensively, they become sort of tunnel vision with regard to that. So if something happens that they are, you know, not expecting, then you know, it can cause confusion. They get us, I think, twice or three times with the same baseline out of bounds play, and I think that's something I've probably got to get better at as a coach, and get, you know, do a better job with my coaching staff in terms of, you know, what and how we scout. I mean, I'm very sort of personnel based when I think about scouting, because I think that, you know, I think it's more important that player, as a developing young player, is looking at, you know, their player and what they've been, you know, what they've studied, rather than coach has told me that they run this or they run that. But yeah, we on that baseline out of bounds, it was a bit of a breakdown, and that's probably on me, frankly.
Okay, thank you for your honesty there. Little's number 13. She's picked up her second foul. Is that why she's out? Is that why you've subbed her out?
Yeah. I think you know, no one wins a game in the first half. Yep. You know, so I think that the other thing is, because Esther hadn't played for 4 months because of a broken foot, this group of girls had got used to playing without her.
Okay.
And had developed massively because she's quite a presence. And without her, some of the others sort of stepped up into sort of leadership roles and dominant scoring roles, and players played with comfort and confidence without her. So I was quite happy to go to that, you know, that early rotation. I mean, Susanna was always going to come in on about 5 minutes, but it was more likely to be for one of the guards, and then I was going to slide Esther down to a guard spot for a phase of play.
Okay, all right. You seem to be a little bit frustrated on this play, and I think you received quite an early warning. What was the reason for the frustration?
I feel like if you're going to call in the national final, I think if you're going to call 2 offensive fouls, one of them was 100% an offensive foul. I think the second one was questionable. I mean, I've been told by referees before that, you know, if you're unsure if it's a charge or a block, call a travel. Okay. So no one gets a foul. And I felt, you know, this is a national final. You've got 2 really good teams. You're calling 2 charges on, you know, arguably the best player on the court in the first 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. You know, let the players win the game. And that's not a complaint about referees. I just felt that I wanted to demonstrate to my players that I had their backs. I wanted to, I've got a player very frustrated on the bench there. If she sees that you're willing to sort of stand up for it and stand up for, there's a lot of contact happening. You've called 2 fouls early on my player, but there's been a lot of contact there, and 2 or 3 times. I think you can just put a bit of pressure on the refs and just see, see if you can, you can be a bit manipulative. And I didn't get away with it, Mike. He was not taking any of my crap, so good for him.
Yeah. Were you expecting Reading to press? I know you talked earlier about you felt they'd try and make it guard-orientated game, but did you expect the press to come? And if so, how did you want the girls to overcome it?
I expected pressure, whether it was in the form of a trapping sort of 3/4 court zone sort of system, or just picking up man-to-man full court was what I was anticipating. And I think you can overcoach if a team are pressing man-to-man, because usually if you've got a good point guard, they can play against pressure. If you've practiced that. I mean, traditionally with me, I like to have, an inbounder, two guards gather on the elbows, someone flash middle and someone flash to the strong side. So someone's gone long and comes back on the strong side if they need to. We're very fortunate that our big girls can all handle the ball like a guard. So, I try from a development perspective to not say you're going here, you're going there, you're going there, and it'd be look, someone's got to come middle, someone's got to go long, someone's got to release, But I think that in the heat of battle, sometimes you do need to perhaps say you're the 4, you're the 5, you're the 3. But we were anticipating them causing us problems. But I also was confident that the girls could deal with the press, and I was also confident you can't press for 40 minutes with 6 girls. So that was going to be tough for them.
Okay, great, thank you. With the you talked about multiple positions there. Is it the same with your offensive principles? Do you have one person running the point, or is it multiple players taking that responsibility?
I think every team needs a point guard. I think you have to have a lead guard, someone who's your floor general. But I don't believe, particularly at junior level, it's a national final and it's about winning at this level and at this stage of the season. But we are, what's got us to this point is developing players and having a sort of an approach that develops players to play all positions, to be able to do all things. So I think that for me, point guard is probably the only position where I really say you are our leader out there. But other than that, I'd like all 5 of my players to be able to catch the ball at the top and read the pick and roll or get us into something. So for me, in this instance, Charlotte, redhead number 10, is always going to be our point guard in this group. But I'm quite comfortable if one of the other girls ends up playing the point for a sequence of play.
I was there watching this game, and I thought Charlotte Redhead was one of the most underrated players on the court in this game. Talking about managing the team, she got 6 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. I thought she was fantastic. What's it like having her as your point guard?
I think she's awesome. I'm so pleased, Mike, to hear you say how underrated she is, because for me, she's a player that should have had a look at the national team. And what I mean by have a look is, take a look at how well her teams play. She played at Southend, they won a national title. She then goes to Sevenoaks, they win a national title. She goes to Ipswich and wins a bunch of national titles. There's no coincidence there. She knows how to play basketball. She's got a really high IQ. She's, a ridiculous set shooter, a spot-up shooter. And the thing with Charlotte, she doesn't do anything that's kind of, like you see Susanna going down the court there at 6'1", crossing the ball over and going to the basket, and everyone's up out of their seats and excited. Charlotte doesn't necessarily do stuff like that, but Charlotte won't turn the ball over very much. She'll make great decisions. She'll take great shots, and she makes her teammates better, which at the point guard position is great. And she's really developed as a leader as well.
I noticed that on the day. I thought she was fantastic, especially in the end game when we watch later. She keeps everyone calm, everyone under control. Thank you for sharing that. With your offensive transition principles, do you try and anyone push, or do you try and get in the hands of the point guard and then go from there?
Get it and go.
Get it and
go. Get it and go. If you've got it, push it. I like to run 2 players to the corners. Someone to run to the front of the rim if they've got an advantage. But if they haven't got an advantage, then they can either set an early ball screen, or just stay high for ball reversal.
Okay.
For me, you know, the less structured offense we play, the better.
Okay. Right. Can you just talk through your defensive principles right now? Are you happy with the way the girls are playing?
We're doing all right. I mean, our game plan, one of the big things was, this team's very quick in transition, so we want to try and, reduce the opportunities in transition. And we felt that number 11, Carmen, was their engine. So, I mean, like I said earlier, Ella's really picking her up. I think what I put a great emphasis on, Mike, and there's no, there's no superstar scouting with me. It's, is this player right or left-handed? Are they a shooter? Are they a driver? Are they a 50-50?
Mm-hmm.
Do they have any specific tendencies that really create an advantage? What do we want to take away? What do we want to be aware of? And I think still at sort of junior level, men's or women's, I think, it starts with, can they shoot the ball? Mm-hmm. And for us, the beauty of the WEABL is the level of stat tracking and analytics that there is available. And I mean this with all the respect in the world. Reading shoot an awful lot of threes, but don't shoot a great percentage. So we'd identified which girls are non-shooters and which girls were shooters, and we were quite happy. If you watch us guarding Parodi in this game, we are just standing off her and daring her to shoot. Okay. And I think they go 1 of 30 or 1 of 31 in this game.
That's correct.
So I'm really happy with that. But again, there's no kind of, we defend every set that they run and we have their playbook written down. Now we rehearse some actions, mm-hmm. And we know about personnel.
Okay, great. On that last possession, you ran what I think was horns down. What's the objective of that offense?
Pretty much any time I run a set, mm-hmm. it's to try and get a deep catch or a three.
Okay.
So we run a horns down, which is if it's the one I was thinking of, we run a horns down, which is the point guard releases the ball, they hard cut to the basket. They might get sort of a UCLA option off that. Okay. They can either then post up themselves, or they then go and set a flex screen for someone to come across. So we then can post up our one of our two wings, either our 2 or our 3. I run it repeatedly at Division 1 women's level for Harriet Wellham. I put Harriet Wellham in the post mm-hmm. a lot in the half court. But again, when in this lineup outside of Charlotte, every girl we've got out there's 5'10".
Yeah.
So we've done some work in the build-up on post play, and just really not necessarily to even get a bunch of scores out of the post, but more to potentially get fouls and just put the defense under pressure.
Okay, great. Okay, so the quarter finishes 19-16 to you. Are you happy so far with what you're seeing? Offensively, are you happy? Defensively, are you happy?
Yeah, I mean the one thing that you'll see it there. I think that we decided that whenever they ran that cross screen action, that we were going to defend Annabelle, the big girl, differently depending on who was defending her. So that was being talked about throughout the game, and I think that we made life quite hard for her. I mean, it's a national final. You're up by 3, and your best players sat for 7 minutes.
Yeah,
we were more than happy. If you're up by 3, and then you're up by 6 at halftime, something's working. So we were quite happy. I like to try and keep teams under 15 points a quarter. 16, we're almost there. If we've scored 19 against a good team, we're on, we're on pace for sort of nearly 80 points, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, you talked about a few targets there. What you say? You try and keep teams to below a certain number?
I want to keep teams under 60 points if I can.
60, okay.
For the girls, particularly 60. The boys, if we can keep them under 60, great. But maybe 65 to 70. My teams all play so fast, mm-hmm. and they shoot a lot of threes. We shoot early offense. There's not a shot I don't like. Really, if it's open, shoot it. Whether it's 1 second into the offense or 23 seconds into the offense. So we get a lot of turnovers because we play so fast. And that's something that we've got to get better at. But yeah, if we keep teams under 60 points, our pace of play is usually going to mean that we score more than that. So,
okay, great. I do believe on the next possession, might be the one after actually, Little picks up her 3rd foul, and you can see as she comes off, she's very frustrated. How do you manage that? How do you manage her emotions? Do you ask an assistant to speak to her? Do you speak to her yourself? How do you deal with that?
Trust.
Okay.
Uh, I've coached all these girls for a lot of hours, and I've most of them I've coached since they were 11 or 12 years old, Michael. I probably know them as well as anyone in the world outside their parents. So there's a bond and a trust there. Esther's a girl that plays the game on the edge of her emotions. She's a very, very, very gifted athlete, but she's a very, very, intense kid, particularly on the basketball court. And part of managing intensity, I would say, is knowing. It's Warwick Can quote: "Know your cats. Know your cats." I know Esther really well. I know what makes her tick. I know how to push her buttons. I know how to irritate her. I know how to please her. All of these things. And so in that instance, I may send an assistant over. I may go and have a chat with her. I tell you, if you go and have a chat with her 10 seconds after she's just come out the cave, you're not going to get much of a response.
Yeah.
But if you let her cool down and go and have a chat with her and just settle her down, but she, most of these kids have been through a hell of a lot more adversity than 3 fouls.
Yeah.
So they just let them have their moment, let their bit of frustration, and then next thing.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you for that. I thought that quote, "Know your cats," and your explanation of it was fantastic. So thank you for sharing that.
It's a pleasure.
On defense right now, if you look at a couple of the girls, you're very, very sort of packed into the paint, and your closeouts are short. Was that the reason for the Reading's not great 3-point shooting ability?
Yeah, so I think if you watch this, hopefully Carmen, number 11, is the only one that gets a high hand.
Okay.
In the half court. Like everyone else, it's like, come on in you come, kind of pack in the paint. We've got 3 girls over 6 foot. They are all really long.
Yeah.
Come and beat us in the paint. You're going to have to go over all these big trees if you come inside, or you're going to have to shoot the ball from the perimeter. And so there's Parodi. We're right off her there. Charlotte's basically saying, come on, shoot it.
Yeah.
That's Thompson. She can shoot it a little bit, but we were kind of like, let her make one before we defend that. This girl killed us, but she was killing everyone in Division 1 as well. Tough matchup for us because she was like 5'9" and super athletic. So we would have to guard her with a bigger girl.
She had a
but someone's going to go off, and our thing was that I think Moreno only had 7 points. Parodi, the point guard, didn't get going, and they were the 2 that we felt that were the sort of the engine of their team.
Okay. And if that doesn't work, what adjustments would you make? Have you come across where that hasn't worked this year?
The problem for us is that, like I said, this is the first time we played with this lineup. So it's the first time where I was able to look at having Esther, Cameron, and Susanna in the game together.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that with this group, we were the best team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And we finally got this group together. As I say, Susanna had a dislocated shoulder. We had concussions. So the attitude was always, let's get to the latter stages of competitions, and we should be healthy. And of course, then coronavirus comes in once we finally had everyone healthy. So, because people forget this is a month before basketball stopped. So we had some other stuff up. I had a boxing one up my sleeve, ready to go. Contrary to a lot of people's coaching philosophy, I don't mind playing a zone. I quite like playing a zone. I think that comes from always coaching a team with 6-7 players in the rotation. I don't have the luxury of 12 studs. We've got a full bench there because we drafted in some of our under-16s to get the experience of being in a national final. And I said to them, look, girls, be ready to play, but don't no long faces if you don't get in the game.
Mm-hmm. The energy they brought on the bench as well was fantastic. And
we got a 14-year-old on the bench there, Mike. An under 14 who's in the GB program. Brilliant. To be playing in front of 400 people, 300 of which are idiots in blue wigs, cheering them on.
I didn't say it.
Hey, there are idiots. So, it's quite an experience. And
there they are.
There they are. Look at what That's Ipswich Basketball Club right there.
You must
Forget
take a lot
their
of pride
play.
seeing that.
Oh, it means the world to me, Michael, because I think we've got 110,000 people in Ipswich.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're probably the best supported basketball club in the country, or certainly in terms of pound for pound.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And the club just comes to a standstill. If you come to Copperston on a weekend when there's a big junior game, under 14 game, you'll get 150 people in there sometimes. It's crazy. It's great fun. Just great fun.
Yeah.
Just good people. Most of those people do a job for the club somewhere along the line. So they're all volunteers, so they all feel part of that group of girls' success, and that's the thing.
Yeah, fantastic. The past previous possessions, last two, you had back-to-back post-up plays. Was that something you called? Were you looking to exploit the height that you had, the height advantage?
Yeah, I think, again, Esther, Cameron, Susanna are tough. Someone's got a mismatch down there because Annabelle, the big girl, can only guard one of them. She's not in the game at the moment. Mm-hmm. But also, if they're doubling off, particularly off Esther, it's simple, straightforward basketball. If she's guarded by two, someone's open. All of our girls can shoot. If single coverage, particularly with the big girl out of the game, then we go to work and get a bucket or a foul. Again, for me, it's I think if whenever you're struggling offensively, like I say, they're the times when I'll call a set or something and say, and it's normally to get a deep catch or an open look. But I just felt that Esther 1-on-1 in the post is as good a catch as we're going to get.
Sure. One thing I noticed about this game, Reading had 27 fast break points. Do you feel there was something wrong with your defensive transition, or do you think that like the guard dominance that Reading has, that's something you kind of accept they're going to be good at?
I mean, our game plan was very much try and stop them in transition. But this, I mean, look at Ginez there, just the pace at which she's getting down the floor. We're going to give something up. Okay. And I certainly wasn't happy to give up transition points because they're the best shots you can get in a game of basketball. Mm-hmm. But while they scored 27 points, in transition, they only scored 30 points in the rest of the game anywhere else. Okay. So I felt like we made it really hard for them in the half court. Mm-hmm. We out rebounded them. Mm-hmm. You're never happy if a team are getting run out layups, but we forced them into some really tough shots in the half court, which I was happy with.
At this point, Reading on a bit of a run. You're struggling for scores a little bit. How do you feel you can get scores? Earlier, you talked about you calling some plays. Is there other ways you can create offense for yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, I probably should have taken a time out at this point and talked to them. But again, I don't like telling them how to play basketball. I mean, I still feel like we're getting stops at this point. So I feel like if we're getting stops, there's opportunities in transition. That's the first time pretty much all game that we've had that. Let's call them the big three out there together. So you've got three girls that are all, super, super talented girls, but they're trying. So you see Esther suddenly playing point guard here. Yeah. So we're a little bit out of rhythm, and I think that probably as an element of we've got to figure out how they're going to play together, and the way that they're going to play together is they're going to have to play for a bit. Mm-hmm. We're still up, so we're like right there. We're like 6'2", 6'1", 6'1", 5'10", and a 5'8" point guard. We're enormous, and that's mm-hmm. That's a tough. Tough to get some rhythm. So I think we were trying to figure it out more than anything.
Would you mind just talking through this baseline out of bounds, what you're looking to get out of it?
Well, normally we run Charlotte to the other side.
Okay.
But so Charlotte runs off the baseline, and we get a ball reversal and a three on the opposite side. Okay. And there's obviously then weak side post flashes high. There's potentially a ball screen or a post entry. But they'd overplayed Charlotte on the previous one. Mm-hmm. So Charlotte just faked it and went the opposite way. So we were looking to get Charlotte to go to the opposite side of the floor. So we were we changed it on the fly, essentially.
And that's her IQ again, isn't it? A great example of reading the play. Big three from Little there.
Yeah, she doesn't shoot enough of them. she was 2 of 2 in this game, so we were very happy.
At big times as well. You've now gone to a 2-3 zone. What was your rationale behind that?
Length. we're enormous, and we're not particularly without their big girl in the game. They're not getting anything inside here, and because they're not shooting the ball well, we're quite happy with them just throwing the ball around the perimeter, eating into the shot clock, and then shooting something late in the shot clock. The other thing, Mike, and going back to your question about how do you get offense, I quite often use a zone to get offense because we're so big and athletic. You can steal away, you can leak out a little bit at the top of that zone, and we because our bigs, and I don't even like calling them bigs, because our big players can handle the ball and play as guards. If we know that they're putting a shot up, we get good rebounding position, we're off. And so sometimes I'll go to say, the other thing is it's to protect foul trouble. I'm asking I only use 6 players in the whole game. I think 5 of them are going to play 30 plus minutes. As I said earlier, you've got Esther and Susanna both coming back from injury. So they're probably not in as good a shape as they normally are in terms of playing high minutes. I've been forced to play a lot of zone because I've always, particularly in the women's game, only ever had 6-7 players. So I played some zone. Division 1, I play a load of zone, so Harriet Wellham can have a rest. And, it's always been, it's something we got good at because we've been sort of forced to do it. So I do go to, I rarely, if ever, start in a zone, but there will always be a phase of the game where I'll go to it.
Okay. On that free throw, I think you got Redhead's attention, and your hand went like this. Do you remember why you did that?
Not a clue. I'm always trying to communicate through either the point guard or the court captain about something.
Okay. I just thought you might have tried to encourage a bit of a extended press on the 2-3, but no, that's fine, no problem.
I just can't remember.
That's all right, no worries. What are you looking for right now on defense? Because you've gone back to the man. What was the change up for?
I think probably because we took Esther out of the game, so we could go back to man. Okay. And so the need to protect her wasn't quite so much. I also just jumped between zone and man, Mike, a lot because I think a lot of coaches don't recognise those changes.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying these guys didn't, but I've found coaching over the years, if you just jump between man and zone in game without a timeout or without, if your point guard can come down the floor and call a defensive change, and the defense thinks that they're calling an offense. So, if you've coded your offenses in your defense and your lead guard is walking the ball up the court, they might be calling what defense we're going back into next time.
Okay.
And the other team are, they're then thinking about an adjustment or what's this, what's that, and I've seen tons of it over the years coaching, particularly in sort of academy games, and the coaches are really good in the academy leagues. But if you just jump between man and zone, the coach is doing a lot of adjusting, talking to their players as opposed to thinking about what they're doing. Okay. So if you're, it's just a simple sort of coaching trick that Matt Johnson, ironically, of Reading, sort of probably got me thinking about many years ago.
No, the reason I thought it was, at the time I was sitting behind the Reading bench, and I saw he said the reason I called this timeout was because we're struggling against this zone, and I thought you went one possession of man to sort of like affect his timeout, make it kind of pointless.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
You do that?
Yeah. A lot of I'm going to waste their timeout. So, yeah, but you know what the funny thing is, Mike? If you're coaching, a lot of the time when you coach players that haven't played for you before, or not necessarily played for an experienced coach or as experienced a coach, and you do something like I would always explain to the players, right, he's called a timeout because we've got 4 stops in a row in a zone, so he's going to talk to them for 45 seconds about a zone. So let's play man for 2 possessions, and then we'll switch back to zone once they've got used to us playing man again. And again, that's that switching up, because players, if you say to a player out of a timeout, next time down the floor, do this, they'll do it.
Yeah.
So if you've changed, it's quite a simple concept. If you've changed what you're doing, then it messes with them a little bit, and that can cause frustration and all sorts.
Back in the zone right now.
Yeah.
The length of your girls are ridiculous.
Do you know what? Charlotte's really good at the back of the zone.
Okay.
Because she's really strong, and you know, while she's giving up size, we're not giving up size. She's just giving up, but she's probably our physically strongest player.
Yeah.
And that enables us to get the ball in our most sort of safest pair of hands in transition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so she can grab a rebound and go, but then we're into a more conventional style of play.
Okay. I love this. I think this is one of the best possessions of the game right now. Number 5 blocks the shot and runs straight down to Charlotte and pick her up. I know that's not a stat sheet thing, but you've got to be proud to see that right now.
Oh, well, it's a team rule.
Yeah.
You know, it's the old-fashioned never pick yourself up ever. And people get, you know, I kind of hate this, that people think that stuff's cliche and cheesy and for the cameras. It's not. It's a real cultural. It's a real cultural thing that, you know, everyone's got each other's backs. I think, you know, for us there, Charlotte's so important to our team, and everyone knows that. And making Charlotte in that moment of shit, have I screwed my ankle up here, and my teammates are right there for me, makes a hell of a difference to that kid psychologically.
No, I love that. Never pick yourself up. I think that's brilliant. End of the quarter, as you can see, Reading hit the 3.
Livid. I was livid.
I was going to ask, were you frustrated by that?
Yeah, because it changed, you know, momentum-wise, it changed things going into half-time.
Okay.
Because the game plan was to, you know, not let Marino shoot a 3, and she got one on the buzzer. So even though we're up 6 going in at half-time, we could have been up 9.
Yeah.
You know, and she's their catalyst, their engine, and I felt like we'd done a hell of a job on her.
Mm-hmm.
And you just don't need a player of that caliber going in at halftime and think I've just got my rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you were all geared up to say we're up 9, they haven't hit a 3 yet, hell of a job. And instead you're like, look, we should be up 9. You know, but it enables you to talk at halftime about the importance of lapses in concentration and playing for 20 minutes, not 19 minutes and 55 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I should have said I love the never pick yourself up philosophy. I think I'm going to use that. So thank you for sharing that. That's
No, it's a pleasure.
I'm interested in the way you've started the third. You're in the zone, and Little's on 3 fouls. Is the reason you're in your zone to sort of look after Little a little bit?
Yeah, I mean I think she's the best player in the country. I've not found anyone yet that argues with that. And but what separates her is actually defense. Defensively, she can switch 1 through 5. Rebounding, she averaged like 19 rebounds a game in the academy leagues. You know, it's just she's an absolute beast because she can cover so much ground. So the foul trouble made us play zone. Reading didn't like the zone, but look how much ground she covers and how mobile she is. And she's talking to the whole defense, and that allows, you know, the rest of the girls to stretch out and gamble and go after things a little bit. So, yeah, we were protecting her, but quite frankly, in a national final, you know, if sticking a 6'2" girl in the middle of a zone with her hands up is working, you do it, you know.
What are you looking for the top guys to do? Are they coming out to the wing?
Well, they're still following the scout. So we go out to Moreno, but we don't go out to Parodi.
Okay.
When the ball goes to the wing, weak side guard takes away the high post.
Okay.
When the ball's at the top, the centre, the pivot, is responsible for the high post. When I say responsible, that means doesn't necessarily mean you go and guard it. It just means that you're tagging and you're saying that that's my responsibility. But again, we're packing this zone in, and we're saying, you know, you've got to shoot the ball over us. And you know, having high hands on their one girl that we didn't want to give a 3 to, you know, it's quite a straightforward game plan and scout. But I also believe that by doing it like that, they're then out there playing with freedom, as opposed to follow the scout.
And the back guys, do you want the back guys to say just pack the paint? Is that what you?
So the way I do it, again, we're blessed with lots of length. The weak side big doesn't or shouldn't drop too far into the paint because they are, you know, firstly responsible for quick ball reversal to the opposite side, 3-point shot. Now, in this game, we've practiced, if it's Moreno, you've got to go. But if it's this player, that player, that, you haven't got to go. In fact, do short closeout, but also close out so short that it's obvious that you're closing out short. Okay. So it's not, you're saying, go on, we don't think you can make that shot. We're not even going to defend it. And if you're a shooter or if you're a perimeter player and you catch it and you think, man, they don't think I can shoot this shot, they may miss one that they might have scored because they see, man, I'm more open than I should be. So we, like I say, we have, like the small guard, Parodi, she's just devastating at getting into the seams and causing triple trace and kick and sort of allowing that beautiful ball movement that they have. Mm-hmm. So just stand right off her and say, like, we're going to give you 3 yards. So we're going to get in front of you if you put the ball on the floor, but shoot it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. It's been a couple of turnovers now. Redhead hits a 3, but previously there was a couple of turnovers, and you have 25 in the game. Are you disappointed by that figure, or are you fine with that because you're trying to play with pace?
25 is too high, okay. But I mean, I dream of 12 to 16 turnovers a game. I dream of 4 turnovers a quarter.
That's an odd dream.
I think, yeah, but realistically, with the pace that we play at, if we're under sort of 2018, I'll live with that. And then we talk about decision making and we watch film, and we 25 is too much. But we're playing against a good team that are really disruptive. I mean, I watched the scout video before this just to remind myself, and the first thing it says is that they just work so hard and they're so disruptive defensively. Mm-hmm. This girl's tough. She's really good.
21 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, 6 steals. She had a great game.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to talk about when you feed the post, because we talked about earlier of your height advantage. What are the actions you're expecting to see from the other girls once the ball has been entered? So right now, what are you looking for the girls to do?
So it's in that situation. If Esther makes a deep catch, the post entry passer. If she makes a catch and doesn't make an immediate move, the post entry passer is going to hard cut the basket, whether that's baseline side or across the elbow. So that gives you an option, and then we'll just have under 12s basketball on the perimeter. Everyone fills and replaces. I like both corners to be filled on a post catch, because that's a really hard place to double from and to help from. So one of the things I like to do is if we enter the ball into the post and it comes back out, let's try and go around the other side, and just see what happens off weak side ball reversal. But like I say, I don't claim to be Phil Jackson with my half court concepts. I do a lot of work on making them all rounded basketball players and making good decisions and being more skilled than the players that they're playing against. I'm not saying they are, but that's the aim. So for me, there's a hell of a lot of work around spacing and timing, as opposed to you've got to do this.
Right, the score's 37-34 to you guys. About 5 minutes left in the third. What are your thoughts at this point in the game?
Don't get any fouls. Be up going into the fourth, and we'll take it. Okay. One of the things, I'm happy to send it to you, Mike, is on our scout, we picked up on a couple of their girls reach a lot on defense. Okay. Particularly Ginez, number 5. If there's a 50-50 ball, or in transition particularly, if someone's coming at pace downhill, she will reach and foul. So we had one of the assistant coaches tracking their fouls and just keeping an eye on that. And we were pretty confident if we got in an end game, we would win it. Okay. Because as much as our girls, were, Esther got a little bit of foul trouble early in the game. We went into the fourth quarter, Esther had 3, nobody else had any kind of real foul concerns. Whereas I think their big girl was on 4. I think Moreno was on 4, and I think Espinosa, Ginez, number 5, ends up fouling out. So I think that really helps. So I was just comfortable that if we're up going into the fourth, we'll win it. If we can be up by more than we were up by at half time, then even better.
Right, thank you for that. Number 12's having a great game for you. Makes the layup, blocked down one end, and wins the MVP. What a game she had.
What you got to think as well, Mike, a little bit of fairy tale stuff, is she's 15.
Oh,
So she's actually an under 16. She hasn't played an under 16 game in 2 years. So, Ipswich's under 16s could have looked very different this year. But the other thing is, she dislocated her shoulder against this team in an academy game, doesn't play for 6 weeks, gets cleared to play on the Thursday before this game on the Saturday, and goes out and gets MVP.
Yeah, 15 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 blocks, and she's playing with so much confidence. It's brilliant.
I'll tell you as well, Mike, whoever's doing the live stats in this game, I want to sit down and have a chat with them, because she gets a hell of a lot more than 3 blocks. I think we're speaking to Sam Nita, and he did a video on her, and he counted 6. So on the highlights, there's 6. So, I'm not sure how accurate that is. She gets 3 blocks that, should be, on your highlight video, and then there's all the deflections and that stuff as well. But she's an all-world talent. She's an all-world talent, that kid.
She's fantastic. So numerous years left to work with her. Fantastic.
Yeah.
On your next offense, the shot clock on the next one after this. The shot clock goes down quite deep. At the end of a shot clock, do you want the girls to be patient and trust the offense, or are you like, all right, Charlotte and Esther, let's get in a pick and roll together?
Yeah, we do. We might go 4 down and just have someone play one-on-one and go and make a play, or we will tend to put Charlotte or Esther in pick and roll. I mean, Charlotte and Esther in pick and roll is a nice pick and roll. Yeah. Put Cameron and Esther in the pick and roll for us is a great, because you got both can shoot, both are massive, both are athletic. But I will, 6 seconds or less, 8 seconds or less, we tend to either play pick and roll or just go 4 down and just have an isolation and make someone. And again, because we develop players, and build them from a very young age, they all have the skills to go and create a play. And they can all shoot it. So make a play. If you get by the first defender and they have to send help, then someone's going to be open.
There was a bit of fist pump on that possession there. Were you happy with that?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm hiding kind of my adrenaline quite well. When I was a younger coach, I was a TV coach, and what I mean by that is it was all look how passionate I am, everyone. And as you get older and more experienced, and if you're lucky enough to get into games like this a few times, you kind of realise that the players are feeding off your leadership, and they feed off their crowd, and the crowd are giving you enough inspiration. You don't need the coach to be, trying to be, Bobby Knight on the sidelines. You need to be at least projecting a calm, calm presence. And I was reasonably calm in this game, but when a big stop happens, I always think that third quarter is the most important quarter, and if you can be in good shape after 3, you're doing all right.
How did you feel you dealt with this lady shooting the free throws right now? Did you think you did a good job?
I think we did a really. I'm going to sound like a politician here and change the question. I think we did a really good job on the other 3.
Okay.
And I think that if, in all reality, I mean, that girl's just run through Esther and Susanna and made a layup. We couldn't have done that any better. Yeah. I think that the job we did as a team on their key girls was outstanding. One of them was going to have a good game.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We couldn't do anything with her, but although her numbers were outstanding, I didn't feel like we were playing against, Michael Jordan, who was beating us by herself. I thought she was keeping them in the game. But she's, you've just seen there the exact foul that I'm talking about, which is the clumsy in transition foul. And we'd told our girls, if she's drive at her in transition, because she will reach.
Okay.
I was very smug when she started getting in foul trouble, because I was like, I don't know, and I'm not patting myself on the back here, but how many coaches are thinking about that? The only reason I thought about it is because I looked at their stats and I looked at their average fouls per game. And she averaged like 3.5 fouls. So I then put into crossover, show me the clips of all of her fouls, and I noticed a pattern.
It's really interesting. Yeah.
And I'd never scouted that before. So I stumbled across it by chance. So I'm no mastermind there. But then I realised, God, this girl's getting 3 fouls a game, and at least 2 fouls a game are clumsy reaching in transition fouls. So let's drive her in transition. Let's push the ball at her in transition, and it worked.
Yeah, for sure. Reading on a couple of occasions trying to beat your zone. They've gone to they try and feed the low post. What are you looking for the girls to do to counter that?
It depends which player it is.
Okay.
So for us, with the big girl, we said that if Cameron or Esther, if Cameron's guarding her, Cameron's going to front her and be really physical with her. But if it's Esther or Susanna, we'll play behind because she's got to shoot over their length. They're a little bit longer than Cameron. So Cameron would sort of be fronting and being a physical nuisance. But, if she tried to go over the top of the other two, good luck to her a little bit because, Susanna's got a 6'7" wingspan. Mm-hmm. So if she's getting a post up over the top of her, good luck to her. So we're very sort of personnel specific in terms of how we defend the post. Their press is starting to work here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you feel? Were you happy with the third quarter? You scored 9 points yourself, but you kept them to 10. Overall, would you feel like, okay, I'm happy going into the fourth?
I keep going back to the same thing, Mike. For me, and again, maybe I'm being a bit sort of simplistic with coaching basketball, but I think I'm quite a simple basketball coach. It's a national final. We're up. We don't have any foul trouble now. Okay. Esther's not got a foul, so we're up going into the fourth. I think it's at this point. It's as again. There's probably going to be people watch this that are X's and O's guys that will think, no, he's wrong, but we at this point it's about blood and thunder and about rebounding and it's about taking care of the basketball and it's about heart and passion and making the right decision. And this is now the players. There's not how well have you prepared, how mentally tough are you, how strong-willed are you, how in shape are you. That's far more important at this stage of this game than any wizardry I can do on the sidelines. Is do they believe that they're going to win this game? So for me, I'm thinking, we're up going to the fourth against a team that are undefeated. We've got our leader has been frustrated, but is good to go for another 10 minutes here. I was more than happy. I think, I think you can overcoach. I think so many coaches overcoach, and I'm not trying to downplay what I do tactically and technically, but at this point, this is a good catch for us. I mean, I'd like her to spin baseline there and finish, but that looks like a contested free, but Cameron's a foot taller than that girl. It's contested in her body, but not necessarily on her release. Yeah. So, I think we're in blood and guts time here, and it's about the players.
Mm-hmm. How do you, were you worried about fatigue at all with a short rotation? Or is that the reason why you're in the zone to sort of, I don't want to say relax, because that sort of, I don't want to sound like I'm criticising your zone, but I know some coaches go to a zone to sort of give guys a little bit of a breather.
There's always an element that you can, particularly playing man-to-man against this team, because it just moves so well. Yeah. That you're chasing around after them. And they're a better man-to-man offensive team than we are a man-to-man defensive team, but they're not a better zone offensive team than we are a zone defensive team. So that's a simple coaching choice. Let's not overcoach that. Fatigue-wise, I'll be honest with you, Mike, and again, perhaps I'm naive. You're playing in front of 500 people.
Yeah.
Your adrenaline's through the roof. I think I've still got 3 timeouts at this point.
Yeah, you do.
Like, I'm not worried about fatigue. I'm thinking they're worried about fatigue. But that's also what I'm telling our girls. I'm a real us against them coach. Like, in the game, like, find something you don't like about them and let that motivate you. We all just watched The Last Dance, right? Let's not pretend that that's not a thing, because there's so much of that as well, Michael. It's not about. It is about that. It's a national final. These guys are more tired than you. These guys they're going to drop before you are. They're going to get in foul trouble before us because we're in better shape because we've worked harder to get to here. And maybe that's just a bit. Maybe I've watched too many Rocky movies, but do you know what? We're in a national final with a bunch of girls from a small town in Suffolk. We're doing something right.
Yeah. And paid off. So fair play to you. Earlier you talked about keeping something in your locker, and you mentioned it was a box and one. Did you ever feel I'm going to go to that now, or was there never a need?
Oh, I felt that I don't think Mourinho was the girl that we were going to go to. I think I've just butchered her name, so my apologies. I'll call her Carmen. It's much easier. Carmen, number 11, was the girl that I was going to try and disrupt in a box and one. And I felt that we'd kept her so quiet that we didn't need to change that. Whether we were in man or zone, Ella Pearson, another, much like Charlotte, real unsung hero. Esther, Cameron Taylor-Willis, who's a phenomenal player, and Susanna get a lot of the headlines. But I think the job that Ella and Charlotte and Becky do, really, for me, you don't win this final without those 3 girls. And Ella Pearson just suffocating Carmen was a huge part of that whenever we were in man.
What's the future of Little looking like? How do you see her future panning out?
Well, she's obviously she's doing another year with us, and then she's off to Gonzaga. Oh, my earpiece has just fallen out. Which is a top. I think they're ranked 13th in the NCAA Division 1. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've coached her for 5-6 years. She's probably the most talented player I've ever coached in terms of. Our S&C coach said to me not long ago. He said it's like we made her in a lab, because he said she's tall but she's fast. She's athletic but she's strong. She's pretty mentally tough. She's got good leadership skills. All of those things. And the best thing about her is, and the thing for me is, she's going to a great program, one of the best programs frankly in the world. Who she's built a really strong relationship with already. I think the sky's the limit. I mean, I think she's got a chance of being one of the best British female players we've ever had. But that is an enormous weight to put on her. For me, having coached her since she was 12 or 13 years old, just, as long as you're happy, I care far more about them as people than as players, Mike. When they're 30, we're not going to be talking about basketball. We'll be talking about life and experiences and things you've been through, and we might chat about basketball now and again. But
sharing that, that's brilliant. Reading called a timeout because they're struggling against your zone again. Number 5 for Reading. Sorry, they've put at the high post, and she's just got an M1 play, although she didn't convert it. Is there something going wrong with the top of your zone, or do you think they're just executing well?
I think they're executing well at this point, because I think that if the ball's like I said, if the ball's at the top, it's the big, but if the ball's on the wing, it's the weak side post. And I just think that we're probably switching off a little bit there, but there's also an element of she's not a natural in that spot, so we weren't terrified of her in that spot. Far more terrified about them pressing us and getting momentum at this stage.
You use one of your 3 timeouts here. Is that to kill momentum?
Yeah, and I try to not get a timeout in the third quarter if I can help it. I'll use a timeout in the third quarter if the players are tired or if there's something catastrophic going on. But if I can have 3 conversations on my terms with my team in the end game, I'm pretty confident that I can do my bit, which I believe is still quite minimal. It's the players. I think we had a video of these timeouts because we had a cameraman behind the bench, and I think it was pretty straightforward stuff being talked about.
That 3 is huge. That is an incredible shot.
Right at the end of the shot clock.
Yeah. And you're back into man now. Again, is that because they were struggling against the zone a little bit, try and change up?
Yeah, I think it's probably to try and, 3 minutes to go in the fourth, no foul trouble, doing something with Ginnes. I think we put Susanna on her because of Susanna's length. And Esther's just such a good rebounder that the problem is if you put your best rebounder on the player that's taking all the shots for the other team, then you lose that rebounding presence. Mm-hmm. Again, a very simple concept.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Now, we just discussed the age of number 12, which is extraordinary. You keep her in the game in crunch time. Is that because of her talent? Were you doubting her potential, I don't want to be rude, but immaturity at being 15 and the other girls being older? Or did you have
Not at all. She's full faith. My plan was always that this would be the 5 that would finish the game. Okay. And that's not with any disrespect to Becky. Mm-hmm. We've got so much length out there. Yeah. So much length. Susanna's played 2 seasons of Division 1 women. So the occasion wasn't anything overwhelming for her. And the level wasn't anything overwhelming for her. And you know what? I imagine she's terrifying to play against. Yeah. At that size, handling the ball the way she does. And the thing is, this girl here, Esther's so dominant and dominates the game in so many ways, but Esther doesn't have necessarily the flair that Susanna has. And so Susanna's, very creative. Charlotte's pretty creative. And then you've got, Esther out there and Cameron out there and Ella just doing what needs to be done, but at a really high level. Mm-hmm. Like if I was to put a player in an ISO at this stage of the game, it would have been Susanna. I'd have got, if I wanted to, go 4 down, I'd brutal as it sounds, it'd have been whoever the big girl's guarding. Okay. And attack her. Yeah.
That's 52 all, 2 minutes 17 left. Can you remember what's going on in your head? How are your emotions right now?
Not now. I was thinking not now. We've been up. It's really bad to say, Mike, because I, again, love Reading as a programme. I always thought we were going to win. But you have some games and you think, do you know what? They might be better than us. I was so confident with our prep. I was so confident in our girls. But when they tied it up, I thought, don't screw it up now. Come on. And then, we instantly get back up. Yep. And then we go on a run, I believe. And, but, this is the thing, about our girls have played a lot of big games for a bunch of 17-year-old girls in the UK. That's the play there. There's that one, and then there's one to Susanna that we felt, well, it's a 2-possession game now. Yeah. And we are, 18 foot long across the back of that defence. So,
yeah, as well. I remember sitting in there, it was phenomenal. Must have been great having that blue wall behind you.
Well, do you know what? You almost tune out to it. Well, I'll tell you where the blue wall was even louder in the bar back at Copperston once we got back to Ipswich.
We could maybe talk about that on another interview.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was brilliant. You've gone back to a zone. Is that, it worked well previously?
Worked well. I think we get a cheap bucket.
Okay.
I think we can get a cheap steal away, leak out at the top. With Ella or Charlotte. Mm-hmm. Charlotte's just so steady with the ball. Like there's no panicking.
I thought that was going to be called for a travel, but
yeah, probably should have been. Because she should have passed it to Cameron in the corner. But Cameron's wide open.
With your end game offense, do you girls run the normal stuff, or as we talked about earlier, you trying to get maybe Charlotte and Esther in a pick and roll together? How do you? How do
I
you
think I think offense is really simple. I think for 8 seconds you're trying to get a layup or a three in the
Okay.
first 8. A wide open layup or a wide open three. Your second 8 seconds are, what reads are there? What are we doing? What are we in inverted commas running? And then your last 8 seconds are right. We've got to get a decent shot now. So, it's pretty straightforward to me that can we get a wide open layup or a wide open three? And the girls joke. My training sessions are running and shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Running. They go, we're going to do some running and shooting tonight, coach. Yeah, funny enough, girls. Running and shooting.
Yeah.
I probably spend 10 to 15 minutes a training session on what we do in the half court.
This is what I liked about Charlotte right now. I remember seeing that at the time, thinking, "Fair play to you. You've got this team under control." That was fun.
Well, the other thing is that they're one of their key players. Yeah, calm. So this is the bit where we're thinking a little bit later than planned, but their best players are all now fouling out.
Yeah. What are you trying to run with this sideline out of bounds?
So we just do 2 pin downs.
Okay.
And just to get the ball in. And I think at this point we were saying, we want to get something to the rim or a pick and roll. And I think Charlotte, because one of the things we like to do with Charlotte and Esther is put Charlotte as ball screener.
Okay.
So Esther's got a guard big pick and roll, but the other way round. So Charlotte can pick and pop. So there's another one fouling out here. And I think our girls are now thinking, we've got to screw this up now because their 2 best players are out of the game.
They all celebrated when they realised number 5 was fouled out.
Yeah, well, they knew she was a handful.
She was. Big free throws right here.
But that's huge because Esther's had her difficulties from the foul line over the years, and she's really, really, had to concentrate and work hard to get consistent. And that was a huge moment for us, her making that free throw. So we're now in a 3-point game against a team that have made 1 3 all game. So
great defense there, great closeout. There we go.
So that's the one. So we've got a shot of that from behind our bench on video, and so the players all celebrating, and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, brilliant. Please do. Try and get that in. What was your time? They called a timeout. What were you talking about with the girls at this point?
I don't foul a shooter, right? And I remember it word for word, don't foul a shooter. And then this happens. and do you know what? Ella looked at me terrified because she thought I was going to berate her. And I went, oh, Ella. Like my daughter had spilt her drink, like, oh, Ella. What do you do that for? Because this is the thing, Mike, and again, we're in an end game, but that's a clumsy foul. That's a lack of concentration. We probably, judging by the way the game's gone, we would have come up with the ball, and we might win the game by 6, 7, 8 points. And in the end, they actually have a chance to get a stop and something. Now it doesn't work out, but this girl makes some big shots. This,
You call a timeout immediately after this. What was the reason for that?
Just to explain to them varying scenarios. I mean, firstly, it was they're going to foul.
Did you want to advance the ball? Sorry. Did you want?
Yeah. Yes, I did. Yeah. So I knew they were going to foul. So it was very straightforward. We want to pin down, get Charlotte open. Charlotte's our best free throw shooter. So it's pretty straightforward. Get the ball into Charlotte. We knew a foul was coming. Charlotte's about an 80% free throw shooter. And she's also made some big shots. So, excuse me, for me, I'm now thinking she's going to make both. I mean, she's hit game-winning free throws for us. Okay. She misses the first one, but there was no part of me that thought she's going to miss the second one. Mm-hmm. So it was very much, we're going to put the ball in Charlotte's hands. Charlotte's going to make these free throws. Then, as long as you don't foul a shooter, worst case scenario, we're going to go to overtime. Yeah. Whether it's inexperience, naivety, they somehow end up shooting a 2. Bless them. Again, we've got one of our supporters was on the other side of the court, and they were videoing the crowd. Okay. And it's I think we had 300 people there. Yeah. And they go up like a wave. It puts a lump in my throat because you think, well, it's pretty cool for the players, for the club. People will keep asking me, what's the secret sauce? Why do Ipswich keep producing players? Well, our under 12, our under 14, and our under 16 girls were all there watching, seeing the under 18 win. So now they want to be like them.
Yeah, the reaction's fantastic, brilliant. If you look back on this game, congratulations, by the way. When you look back at it, what would you say would be the one thing you'd like to see have done a little bit better in the future? What would you like to see for improvement wise?
I think we should have done a better job in terms of our transition defence and loading a little bit when Ginez got the ball and was going downhill. I think that we needed to be better. But like I keep saying, 3 out of their 4 stars, in inverted commas, were kept very quiet. I thought, I don't think we played brilliantly, but from a mental toughness perspective, we were outstanding. I think.
You most proud of? What were you most proud of?
I'm a sentimental old fool, Mike, and the reality is you're talking about a group of girls that have been together for a very, very long time, and they've had their ups and downs, and Esther had a broken foot, Cameron had missed time from a concussion, Becky's had a concussion, Susanna's out with a dislocated shoulder, and they deserved this, particularly because a lot of the sort of the low point of the season for most of them was that Reading game where Susanna's shoulders hanging. I mean, because of the length of her arms, when we loaded her into the car to take her to the hospital, we had to load both her legs and then her arm into the car because her arm was literally almost dragging on the ground because her shoulder was down here. And, I say it all the time, but these girls, they jump off a bridge for me. And for them to get the reward of a national title and, for it to be in front of such a big Ipswich crowd, for it to be, off the back of so many of them having injuries this year and the mental toughness that it took to get them all back and all ready at the right time. And it's heartbreaking that we didn't get to play the Academy League final because that would have been a great game between us and Cola and we could have done the double. I just, I'm a dad, so I have that comparison. And I always, when coaches that don't have kids talk about their players like they're their own kids, I always say, well, you don't know that yet because you don't know how much you're going to love your own children. But, the sense of pride that comes with seeing them succeed as people, as basketball players, as young people is quite a thrill.
And I think that's a brilliant way to finish off this interview. And I think your words then were very well spoken. And thank you throughout the whole of this interview. It's been fantastic. You've given us great insight, and I'm sure lots of people will learn a lot from this. You're very open, very honest, and I love your willingness to share. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It's been a really good experience, Mike. It's probably going to be something that I get our club coaches to do moving forward. So thank you for giving me the opportunity.